Justin Rogers joining us. How you doing, brother?
I am here.
Yeah, well,
It's difficult.
that's about all I've been able to say all week at work. So
Yeah, I feel like I've talked about this with some other people. I feel like "How are you doing" is an inappropriate question about April. Like most of us are not doing well. Let's be honest. So, let's just move on to the pleasantries of the Lions, shall we?
I need
the
to ask.
pleasantries.
I need to ask. Is there any German in the Rogers family?
Uh, I don't think so. I think we're more Western European. A lot of that.
All right. The reason I ask is because it's a very cultural thing in Germany. Just like when you ask someone how you doing, oh, my gout is acting up. I mean, to get the real answer to that rather than just the niceties.
Isn't that everybody over 55 in the U.S. as well?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever hung out with a group of people bordering senior citizen? Like,
Don't
I
say
feel
it,
like that's
Case.
90% of the conversations just talking about your health problems.
Well, it makes it interesting, though.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we can go that route if you want. We got 20 minutes, right?
As long as you want. We got as long as you want, Justin. Hey, thanks for the retweet today. Really appreciate that. That was kind.
Of course.
We are rocking it. Did you hear about the Staff Daddy tattoo?
Was it $5,000 you had to raise in the first hour? Is that correct?
Yeah, by
Did
noon.
you get there?
We have till noon to get $5,000. We're halfway.
How are we
there.
doing right now?
We're a little over halfway.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he's gonna.
I might throw out another tweet then. Just I mean, if somebody's gonna tattoo something stupid on themselves, then I'm all for it.
Well, our ultimate goal is 25K. If we get to 30, he said he's gonna do Jared Davis on his other side of his chest. So if you really want to get,
all for a good cause.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so what's going on, my man? What's going on in Lions Land? What's the latest you heard? I know Matthew Stafford's a big talk right now. There's a lot of Everson Griffen and Mike Zimmer a feud, Hatfield McCoy feud going on. What's the big news going on from your perspective?
I mean, Everson Griffen was such a breath of fresh air. So often these players are robotic, a lot of cliches, a lot of boring answers, and things have actually been better in the Zoom world. I feel like players have let their hair down more, but as you get into the season, the questions start sounding repetitive, the answers start sounding repetitive. So to get a guy to come out there with, somewhat raw animosity over something, in my opinion, rather trivial.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys looked at his Twitter account last night. Like, he did not stop.
No.
I mean, he was responding to fan after fan after fan after fan. And I don't know, like, sports are meant to be fun. And to me, something like this just makes an otherwise mundane week and really a battle for the basement of the NFC North, unfortunately, makes it fun.
Yeah, for sure. Big Dom, thanks for the $20. Headed to St. Jude. Oh, we got 666. Now, does it surprise you, Justin, that our audience makes sure that this donation, whatever the amount raised, always ends in 69? Like, it's always 69 cents.
I work for a very conservative newspaper, so I'm not allowed to comment on that.
So we don't know if they're surprised or not. Okay.
So Stafford, though, what's your take on? Okay, so both his availability in the near and far future, and Kelly's feelings on the topic.
I put this out there. I think it was a reply to someone else, so those don't get seen by as many people on Twitter, obviously. But I'm empathetic to Kelly's position. I think that she has every right to be upset that however you want to view it, medical information or COVID status is out there and how that impacts her family, especially the first instance. With some of the things she detailed about being criticized for being at the park and being at the grocery store. I'm empathetic to that, but I'm also empathetic to the people out in the public that don't have the full story, that are strictly concerned about their family as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're all just trying to get through this. We're all trying to do the best we can. So it's impacting a lot of people in different ways, and part of being a public figure or a spouse of a public figure to the level that Matthew Stafford is, these are just things that come with the territory, particularly in a year where there's a pandemic. So, it is what it is. I think we have a pretty good sense now that Stafford is not positive for the virus, at least now. He did have close contact. There is an incubation period with this virus. I think we all understand that. The NFL has made this window 5 days. That's probably unreasonable if you follow the medical advice, but that's what was collectively bargained. And as long as he continues to test negative, I anticipate that he will play on Sunday. Now, if he does test positive, then it becomes a case of whether there's symptoms or no symptoms, and that kind of dictates how long you're out. But he would miss at least the Minnesota game.
What do you think of that strategy of the Stafford family? Because I think of it as a very conscious strategy that Matthew stays out of the social media world. Not just because he doesn't like it or whatever, but because you can speak through somebody and deny all all accountability for what you've said, right? I mean, he can use her as the mouthpiece and say, "Hey, that's my wife. She speaks. She does her own thing. That's not me talking," right? What an excellent way to separate ownership of what you want out there from what you want out there, right?
From what I know about the Stafford family, he is not filtering the message at all. That's purely her, and kudos to him. I think I don't know if I would be necessarily happy if my wife was sharing certain photos or details about my family, but I think we have to respect our spouses and let them live how they want to live. And he seems to be very hands off with her social media, and I have a great deal of respect for that and how that dynamic works within their own personal relationship.
Another 250 from BDR Fab. Thank you for the match there, BDR. Appreciate that. That's nice. We're almost $3,000. We're getting there. Yeah, no, I do absolutely appreciate that, and for sure. I mean, look, it's hard to be in a position like that, and absolutely to support somebody, but that can cause some real difficulty for a guy like him if he's not. And I would be surprised if because they're a very in love family. He's a man that's deeply in love. You know that. You can tell that from a mile away. But if he's not talking, and I'm not saying filtering her message, I think though that there's sometimes points that he wants made that he might say, "Hey Kelly, here's something that might be able to and she can drop something." I think that's it's got to be part of the strategy. It has to be, because there's just certain things sometimes that come out that say, that feels like that might not be Kelly's main point right now. That might be someone else talking.
I don't know, man. I feel like she has the thoughts before I don't think he gives a damn about what the public thinks. I just don't. I've been around this guy long enough in the locker room. I've interviewed him hundreds of times. I mean, really, and he just doesn't care about public opinion, and he never has. He goes about and he does his business, and it is what it is.
Which I think is a big part of the reason that some of us, myself especially, appreciate him. Some people prefer a more boisterous, a more affected person, a Cam Newton of the world, or somebody who's really listening to what the public is saying. I don't really want that in a football player. I just want them to do them. So I appreciate that about Stafford, but
yeah, and I think people probably appreciate it more from the quarterback, right? Like I said, I think the Everson Griffen stuff is fun.
Sure, yeah, I can buy that. 100%.
It's a little bit different. I like that. I like when football players take a select number of fans to task on social media, but I think from the quarterback position especially, you want an even keeled persona. I do think that
it would make your job easier if he was less even keeled, maybe. But
oh, sure, and I think a decade in or 12 years in, with the storyline of his career not being lack of team success, and you kind of look at this, it feels so cyclical at this point that they just keep ending up at the bottom, whether it's his fault or not. Most years it's not, but I think I understand where fans are coming from, where they want to see more anger and more frustration from him, but he doesn't show it, and I think that helps him be beyond reproach within that locker room as well.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, and in the times that you've known him for a number of years, and as you said a number of times, how has his leadership grown or changed over the course of the time that you've seen him? How have you seen him kind of emerge within the locker room and within the team as a leader? Has it changed much? Because from the outside looking in, you see, it depends how you look at it, right? You don't see that guy that's out there with pom-poms cheering and screaming and all that. But you can tell watching how he leads, how he works the guys on the sideline before the game and warm-ups or in the locker room afterward, that his leadership, he owns the team. There's no question about that. But his style, how has it changed? Talk about that for us really quick.
Yeah, I don't think it's evolved a whole lot. I think you kind of hinted at that. You come in as a young player and you kind of have to feel your way through. It's not like you come in and you grab the bull by the horns as a 22-year-old or 23-year-old in a veteran locker room. But once you get some experience under your belt and we see how fast the NFL rosters turn over, you kind of become the standard bearer of the franchise by default. Now, on top of that, his work ethic is beyond approach. I know that's such a common thing. First guy in the building, last one to leave. But for the longest time, he really has been among the first in the building, and maybe not so much the last one to leave these days with the family. But he puts in the work. I know a couple years ago he wouldn't let me write about it, but I'll just drop it here. He hired a driver and did the Phillip Rivers thing where he was doing work in the car on the way to the facility, on the way home, to make sure that he was getting in even extra work on that half-hour to 1 hour commute, depending on Metro Detroit traffic.
Yep.
And then I mentioned his attitude in the media. He never ever throws a team under the bus.
Yeah.
And so those guys respect him. He commands the huddle. He commands the locker room. He never pulls a Jay Cutler where he berates a guy on the sideline. You can see that, and it becomes an issue. It's always calm, cool, and collected, and that's how he leads through his work and through his consistent attitude publicly.
Except when players don't get out of bounds, then he gets pretty upset.
Yeah, what was that, Golden State a couple years back?
Well, and then there was TJ the other day. So,
some things merit it, right?
Right. Yeah. So I've been looking at our injury report so far this week, and it's pretty extensive. But
it's long.
But a lot of these guys were limited part, or at least one of the 2 days. I'm wondering if you have any updates on any specific players. Obviously, we'll get a Friday update that'll illuminate more, and we'll probably come back to that thought later today because we got the time. When I have a little bit more information to look at there, but. Any of the players who haven't practiced at all, any of the days this week that you expect to play?
Over the years, I've kind of learned how to watch the trend with injury reports, right? And so you don't worry so much about Wednesday, but you watch the progression of how players practice throughout the week. And so if a guy doesn't practice Wednesday and then suddenly limited on Thursday and limited on Friday, depending on the player, obviously, there's this greater chance they're playing. Now, if they go from limited to not practicing,
like
Joe Dahl, I think that's a much dicier situation. That's where you start being concerned about that player's status. The one that continues to bother me is Vaitai. You look at this guy since training camp. He's kind of been battling issues. This foot injury cropped up for the first time in the injury report week 1. He misses 2 weeks with it. He's seen limping badly his first game back after he gets beaten by a sack early in that game. He's limping badly through this last game. Like, I understand you got to push through injuries in football. That's part of it. But I'm not convinced this guy's going to be right at all this season. And that's a big blow when you let go of Rick Wagner, who admittedly was not playing particularly well, but you let go of Graham Glasgow, and you bring in this guy with a big money contract to fill that void. And no fault of his own and no fault of Bob Quinn, but now the guy's injured and he's playing injured, and you're not getting
what you paid for,
performance you expected, right? And so
I've seen it before.
it doesn't. It's just a bad look. It's bad optics, even though it's not necessarily anybody's fault.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because there's a question in the chat I'm going to hit you with, but I want to get you one first with a broader NFL question. There's been a lot of speculation about the coaching staff this year. And that's what I'm going to ask because there's still a lot of football to be played. And
just a general statement to lead into the question.
Yeah. The mandate was meaningful games in December. Okay,
yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll see what that means and how that's interpreted by Sheila as she takes over. But I have my own thoughts on it. I want to think about the concept of the NFL more broadly this year and the coaching coaches that are available and the coaching pool. It seems like the Lions are very mediocre Very middle of the pack. It seems this year we're going to beat bad teams. We're going to lose to good teams, and we're going to wind up right in the middle. There's a lot of really really bad teams though this year, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of coaches out there. It feels like, performance aside, it's going to be difficult to get the coach that you want because competition is going to be strong this year. What's your thoughts on the Lions? Not performance aside, the Lions being able to land the coach of their dreams in this offseason with as many teams as there are going to be looking for coaches.
I don't know, coach of their dreams. I don't even know who's out there that anybody would say is the coach of their dreams. Like, uh, is it Lincoln Riley? I mean, it seems like the shine's come off a little bit there. Um, I don't know who it is. Like, I don't think Bill Cowher's coming out of the booth anytime soon. Mike, uh, Jim Harbaugh, like, what is the dream scenario here? But in terms of, are they going to be able to get the candidate that's most desired through the interview cycle? I don't know. There's only 32 of these jobs. There's going to be, I don't know how many you think available, 5, 6, 7. I really
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
looked at it yet, but what you start looking at there is the money and the years are inevitably going to be very similar. They're going to be, this 5 year, $30 million range, $40 million range, whatever coaches are going for these days. And so it boils down to what they believe is the long term possibility of success. And every coach that's come here has believed they were going to be the guy to turn around. And of course, that is the absolute attitude you
yeah.
want. Why it hasn't worked? I mean, count the reasons. I mean, so many, but you're going to look at the general manager, whoever the general manager is at that point, whether somehow Quinn's able to survive that, or it's whoever his replacement is, the relationship you're going to have with them, where you are football philosophy wise, what's the salary cap situation, what's the talent on the roster. I mean, you technically have Stafford, but is Stafford the long term solution for a new tandem? You've got some good pieces, but not a whole lot of great pieces. Um, you'll probably be drafting in the top 10 to 15 picks. So nothing particularly special there. It's not like you're the Jets and locked into getting Trevor Lawrence and knowing you could kickstart a rebuild around that. So,
Right.
there is factors, but I think generally candidates will look at ownership here and they'll see supportive, hands-off ownership. And it's debatable whether that's a good thing. I don't think um, there's plenty of examples where hands-on ownership is too aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Snyder and
Jones.
even Jerry Jones,
Yeah.
yes, for sure. And then there's owners that are too far. But financially, this ownership base commits, and I think that'll be a big selling point to whoever is in the market to be hired. But again, it's going to boil down to, I think, what they believe about the assets and what they believe about the potential relationship with the next general manager.
Sure. We got another question in the chat here from Jim. He wants to ask you if you can give us an update on how the day-to-day coverage has differed from previous years due to the obvious COVID situation.
And then
Yeah.
also talk about the evolution over the season, because everybody's, throughout this whole pandemic, nobody walked into this knowing what to do, it seems like. Even the people that were supposed to know what to do. So everything's evolved over time. So talk about the evolution as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't know if you could tell, I'm sitting between two doors on my floor in my bedroom, locked away from my loud and noisy elementary school children. The biggest change by far, and it's more just the routine of it is I'm home. Uh, I have two young children in virtual school, which I'm running. And so it's just a tremendous
You look haggard.
mental
like
and physical strain every day. I mean,
hiding in the room
it's
with
ton.
the
I'm
door closed, ready to rock himself
Yeah,
against
like
the wall.
I was talking to assistant coach the other day. I think it was the linebacker coach, Ty McKenzie, and like as I'm asking questions, he's like, "Are you sitting on the floor?" I was like, "Coach, I have kids. Like, I just,
At least it
I've
wasn't
done these
Patricia
interviews in
who told you to sit
closets,
up
like
straight. So,
wherever I can hide, right? Like, um, so obviously everything's virtual this year, and
Yeah.
that's been um since the pandemic started, right? And so a lot of my interactions with players is within group settings in this environment. And what is lost there is the casual one-on-one interaction. It's not like we're in the locker room all day every day. It's not like we're around these players all day every day, but you have that 45-minute window 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And inevitably you'll see every guy at least once. And in between the interviews, you have those opportunities for those one-on-one discussions, whether on or off the record. It's where relationships are built. And it's impossible right now to build relationships. You may have some that are pre-existing that are carrying you through, but um, creating original content right now is very difficult, because I might have a good observation or good thought and I can ask that question in a press conference. Everyone else can hear it,
Yep.
and everyone else can write my story the same time I do. So that's been the biggest difficulty. I think credit to the Lions media relations staff. The pandemic has been extraordinarily hard on them too, in terms of working the schedule, and they've busted their ass to make as much access as possible. They have helped me set up some side one-on-ones that have produced some really good stories that I've been proud of this season. But um, at the end of the day, it just feels like the team exhibits more control over who's available when. Great example would be Jeff Okuda, number one draft pick, number three overall. Like, fans want to hear about this guy all the time, right? We didn't talk to him after his first game because he wasn't available. Like, that's that would never happen in a normal scenario. And then I think we've only talked to him once or twice in the last 5 or 6 weeks. Um, it's just not enough, and it's just one example. And again, uh, the media relations department is doing as much as possible. They
Yeah,
really
yeah,
are.
yeah.
But I think that they are limited in also what players they're allowed to present to us. And anything that breathes any controversy, um, those players are intentionally kept away.
Sure.
Marvin Jones during the trade deadline, or for example,
Mhm.
just that's the kind of the stuff we're struggling through right now.
Sure. Let me really quick hit you with something.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit. This is a Senior Bowl conversation, so if you don't want to elaborate any further, that's fine. But I do have to ask. You talked about the year one of Coach Patricia, and it's no secret about how he got along with the media, and the media got along with him. There was definitely a rift there. It was obvious to everyone who watched. And then in year two, there seemed to be just a massive change, like a turnabout, right? And it's one thing I like about Coach Patricia, how much he self scouts and looks at how he kind of comes across to others and how he coaches and his style and so on. The results are the results, but at least it's a big plus for somebody to be able to do that, regardless of what they do. You reached out, I know, a lot to Coach in the off season between that first and second season to try to find a path to create a better relationship, and we've talked about that a little bit, and I've given you an immense amount of credit for the work you did there to make that go. Talk about that a little bit for us, and help me understand exactly what you did, and help others understand exactly how that conversation went and how that shift kind of happened.
Yeah. So year one was what it was, and it was a non-football story reported by non-sports reporters that kind of sabotaged that relationship from the start.
Right.
And again, going back to a phrase I've used multiple times, I am empathetic to where he was coming from in that moment. It's a very um, intense story that was reported. It impacted his family,
Yep.
um, and it was a 2 decade old story that um, it it was fair game to report, because um, it was relevant in the sense that the Lions did not uncover it during the interview process, whereas a news reporter found it easily. But it it probably stayed in the news cycle longer than it should have, based on the fact that there was no new information. New information should have been constantly been sought, but at the end of the day, no real new information ended up coming out. But because of that, it sabotaged his relationship with the beat reporters.
Yep.
I would say that the media that covers the team has been consistent in the way they've covered him and the team from year one to now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we were any harder on him then than we are now. I don't think we were any softer on him then than we are now. It's just we just do our jobs consistently. But that story impacted the relationship. In between year one and year two, you know, at the request of some of the writers, and it was absolutely a two-way street. I don't want to make it sound like I was leading a charge or the reporters were leading a charge, but there were behind closed doors kind of hash it out conversations, some one-on-ones, some group, and we kind of reset the dynamic of topic being covered with the people covering the topic.
Sure.
And I think at his heart, Patricia is a people person. I think that's been established from players he currently plays with to players he formerly coached. He's a very engaging, personal individual, and once we kind of cleared this big negative hurdle from year one and kind of hit this reset button, I think the working relationship. I don't want to say it's been perfect, and of course, like I would always love a coach that gives more and more and more information, because that's what my job is about, is as much information as possible. And he's still very close to the vest on many, many things. And I understand that. I want more. He wants to give us less. That's the relationship. That's the dynamic. But the work relationship the last 2 years, I think, has been very positive. And I think one thing that's really eye opening is as we do these virtual press conferences and we kind of introduce some outside media on week to week basis. So, Minnesota reporters are in for one Patricia press conference a week. As some of these outside reporters have left these press conferences and I'm having conversations with them on unrelated topics, Atlanta media or Green Bay media, they say Patricia's among the best coaches they've talked to all season. And, uh, maybe you kind of take that for granted as a Detroit reporter who talks to him, I don't know, 100 sometimes a year. But it the way he answers questions um, is so much better than year one, and it's not perfect for my sake, but it's been significantly better, and I appreciate him for being a willing participant in working with us and resetting and making that adjustment, and making these last 2 years, I think, productive for both of us, both
Yeah.
sides.
And it's hard to do. I mean, it's hard for all people involved, right? And it's one thing, I know you listen all the time, so you hear it, and that's why your head's constantly getting bigger. But we applaud you and your reporting for being some of the best, down the middle, honest, straightforward reporting that's out there. And it's why we love having you on and talking to you, Justin. You just do such a great job of bringing, the old Joe Friday facts, just the facts kind of a thing. And I think that's something a lot of people need. It's an emotional thing. This for a lot of people, the sport. Some people are over invested. Maybe it's just the way it is with fandom and sports. But the fact that you just bring the honest truth and the straight dope is always super appreciated. And if people got their heads around what they're getting when they read Justin's stuff, I think that would help both fans and you have a better time of it as well along the way.
I don't know what happened here, but I'm case now according to my screen.
Yeah, that was a case. It was
That was
identity theft here.
I learned a lesson in that situation. So
I like this. So, I really appreciate those kind comments, and it's all I've ever tried to be is ethical, logical, truthful, as much fact and information as I can get my audience. And I would be terrible on talk radio. I would. I'm comfortable talking on the radio. I'm comfortable in public, but I don't have the hot take bone in my body. I don't. And um, I think that having hot takes and aggressive opinions that elicit reaction are what are destroying news in general. That's sports. That's the Skip Baylesses of the world. That's clearly political. I can't stand TV news. I can't stand, your talk radio shows. All it does is it's trying to elicit reaction, and um, it's just not what I do. I give you the information. If you want to form your opinion based on that, hopefully I've given you as much data, facts, quotes, research as possible to form an educated, logical opinion. I can't control what you think beyond that, but I can give you the information to get you there.
I can't say that we as fans never have hot takes, but we believe in those hot takes when we have them. We're not just saying them for the benefit of getting a reaction. But is it fair to ask you a prediction about this weekend?
Sure.
How do you think the Lions will do against the Vikings?
Well, I looked at the Vikings as a defense in disarray. Lost a lot of pieces this offseason, lost even more during the season. Then they go out and they did what they did to the Packers a couple weeks ago, which I thought was very impressive. And so I believe Mike Zimmer is a great coach. And I'm starting to think maybe, I asked him if he felt like he was turning a corner, and he laughed at me and said, you can't turn a corner after one game. He's right. It was a dumb question. But they're coming in on a high note. The Lions are coming off of a disastrous offensive performance. I don't care what the final numbers were. That was awful. Awful on every level. It made the defense look worse. The offense is totally to blame for what happened in the last game. And now you take Kenny Golladay out of the equation. I don't really like the way this one's trending for Detroit. It's on the road, which road games don't really matter this year. But, I think this game is trending in Minnesota's favor. I sent in a prediction in my paper. I don't know what the actual numbers were, but I had it a one-score game, but I had Minnesota coming out on top, just momentum-wise, where the organization seemed to be trending.
Excellent. Well, Justin, we're a little bit over. I'm sorry for keeping you over time. I appreciate how gracious you are. Thanks for joining us. Everyone, please don't forget stjude.org/DLP. We're about $3,000 right now. Looking to get to that $5,000 mark before noon so we can see this tattoo live on stream.
Let me double check again. So you guys are going 24 straight hours, is that correct?
Till 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, yes.
Okay. Do we have a closing guest? Should I close this thing too?
Do you want to? I'd be happy to have you again.
Yeah, let's.
8:30?
Because I want to see where you guys are at mental state tomorrow morning.
Now you asked.
Then we might be having all the hot takes.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had a big final guest. I would never want to trump that, but I'm very, very curious to where you guys are at tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no, that's be great. I mean, you were the one that asked if you got surly us or awake us, right? So you're getting both ends of the spectrum now, right?
I need to see both sides. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
I'll be ready for Case's hot takes tomorrow.
This is hot cakes with hot takes. Yeah. We got a player yet to be named. Like you said, the whole COVID thing is shaking the media department this week, especially. We got Eamon's working on it right now. Hank Fraley will be on later today. We got Billy Sims. We got Dan Miller, Tony Ortiz, and Jim Brandstatter getting the band back together. Working with LoJack right now, Blandino, a whole bunch of people. Wayne Fonts will be joining us. It'll be a good time. It's a good.
It's wonderful. I talked to Wayne last year. It's just always a joy.
Yeah, he's spectacular. I love him. He only lives like a couple miles away. Like literally, the Buffalo Wild Wings I go to is right. His house is right behind it. I don't know if he's
go hit up a Cuban restaurant in Tampa, get some plantains.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, POD, got to give you a shout out. Thanks a lot for the 50 for St. Jude. That's really kind of you guys. Jeremy, I'm sure it's you on the other end of that. All right, Justin, thank you so much, man. Thank you for playing the part of Case for a little bit. Appreciate everything you do, man. And please don't change. We love you as a reporter, and we love what you bring to the scene. Don't change teams, and don't change what you do, because we need you here in Detroit, man.
Appreciate it, Chris.
All right,
thanks,
brother.
Case.
We'll talk to you.
All right, later, guys.
See you later, man. All right, Justin Rogers, Detroit News. What a superstar, man. Love our guy. Love our guy. All right, Case, you can't fool anyone anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so what did we learn? We learned a lot from Justin, but Case learns don't turn off your camera. Just tell Chris, and he'll make you look. I'm gonna show you how I make you go away right now. Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Boom. Look at that. Be right back.
Bye.
Hi.